That was the most dominant tournament over 6 games you have seen from a college basketball team since when? What was the last great run of dominance you remember watching from game 1 through game 6 of a national champion?
From 1 to 6, it might be the most dominant I've seen. I hadn't thought about that. I remember, obviously, you think about the great tournament teams of our lifetime. The Kentucky team in '96 stands out. They did not win the title game by as many points as that. But had anyone ever done that? Had anyone ever won by an average of 17? I don't think so, DA. I mean, that's a big number.
Nobody had ever won their Final Four national championship games by 16-plus points, which is what Villanova did. Now, you do wonder whether that was competition. Also, this was a season in which it didn't feel like there were a lot of great teams, but they beat Kansas, a 1 seed, and a 3 seed Michigan. So you can't say it was bummed that they rolled over either. All told, was there a weakness that Villanova had?
You know, they could have been beaten by a Duke maybe because Duke probably had better players. But, you know, they were by far, hands down, the best team. I mean, they had a lull a little bit in the middle of the year. They didn't guard great. They maybe lost their edge like some teams do in a long season. But, you know, I think this will be remembered as just one of the great all-time teams of our lifetime. And I do think we got lulled a little bit into because they weren't that highly recruited and thinking they weren't that talented. We're going to see a lot of these guys in the NBA. You know, Jalen Brunson will be a backup for 12 years, like trying to think of it, like a Jock Vaughn kind of guy, you know, who just sort of bangs around. Mikal Bridges is going to be a top 10 pick, and DiVincenzo will be a first-round pick next year probably. I don't think he'll go out this year, but I think next year he'll be a top 15 pick, and you'll look back and be like, oh, you know what, they're pretty good.
You have covered basically the entirety of Jay Wright's tenure in Villanova. He takes over that program in 2001, and early on he could not get to the tournament. There were frustrations that he could not elevate the program to its once great glory days under Rollie Massimino. What turned for Jay Wright? How did he finally start getting this on the winning track and becoming a powerhouse program?
It's a good question. I think it takes time as a coach to develop an identity and a style. And they sort of accidentally found small ball 4 or 5 years ago. And when they did, and then they recruited to it and coached to it, and it kind of took off. I wrote the other night, they're basically the Warriors. They didn't play quite like that last night because Michigan did a good job taking away the 3, especially in the first 15 minutes. But that Kansas game, I mean, I don't remember a ball popping around the perimeter with more alacrity and more authority and more intent. They share it, they move it, and they shoot it. And I think once they hit that style, then they recruited that style, the kids wanted to play in that style, it sort of became a self-perpetuating thing. And here we are, and they're just running people over.
Pete Thamel joins us, senior writer, Yahoo Sports from San Antonio after last night's national championship game. Do you think this will motivate other schools to try to play small ball, like we've seen the Warriors kind of encourage other teams of the NBA to play that style?
I do. I think a lot of teams, not a lot, but I think there's maybe like a third of the teams play it right now. But no, I think there's always copycats, DA, right? And the player development is a huge theme of this whole Final Four. When you look at Michigan and you look at Beilein, he's obviously a world-class coach. And then having that style, recruiting to it and playing to it. And here's the thing, it was fun. Like, you know, the Kansas-Villanova game wasn't the greatest aesthetic game of all time just because it was a blowout. But you watched that game and you were like, wow, Villanova is fun to watch. They share the ball, they whip it around, they move it, they shoot it. They make good basketball plays. How many jump stops did Villanova make? They're fundamentally sound. I hope basketball trends that way because, quite frankly, college basketball, a lot of it's an unaesthetic slop. So give me some good teams that know how to play an exciting brand of basketball, and I'm in.
Yeah, it's an interesting point because some people don't like the 3-ball heavy basketball that the NBA has become. Certainly the Rockets are take a layup or a three-pointer. That's all that we do. The Warriors have relied on the three-pointer as well. And now Villanova bombing those three-pointers in the Final Four game against Kansas had a whiff of that. But is it different for you in college basketball because there can be so many ugly games that maybe really good three-point shooting is actually a pretty style of college basketball?
Go slip in that Michigan State-Syracuse game tape from the second weekend. I mean, yeah, let's hammer out the shot clock and, like the Syracuse offense, run a late pick and roll and hope we get a good shot, like that's, and then obviously the zone gummed up Michigan State in that game. But, I mean, college basketball isn't that great of a product right now. Villanova is a great product.
Jay Wright straddles this amazing line, and he straddles this line of sophistication and intellect along with being totally grounded and humble. I can't think of many other coaches that would seem completely comfortable in front of a Fortune 500 company as they would at a high school rec league event. Is that rare for the coaches that you cover in college hoops?
Yeah, he just says and does everything right. He's polished and smooth. He's also genuine, though. And I think listening to his players just for a few days here and then back in Boston for a few days, his players said everything right. Like I do think there's a genuine humility, the word you used, and a groundedness there. That's look, he was a bad coach at Hofstra for 3 years. He saw his fate flash before his eyes at Villanova. I think he appreciates being here and what he's built and where he's building it. There's a genuine affinity for Villanova.
Big picture question here. You talked about where college basketball is at, and sometimes it doesn't look all that pretty, and it might look even uglier if we're going to lose the one and dones, because then it means the top tier talent's not even going to be coming through college basketball potentially. What do you think we stand on the brink of in terms of change? What will change over the next 24 to 48, let's say 12 to 24 months in college basketball in your mind?
There should be a lot of change, Damon. I did a story earlier this week about what's going to happen with the Condoleezza Rice Commission. And look, we've both lived through a lot of commissions, committees, working groups that are going to change everything. It did diddly squat. The game's in a horrible place. The threat of the feds looms. If there's ever going to be a time in our lifetime where the game changes significantly, this is it. Where could the changes come? They could come from a lot of places. Agents and advisors being more involved, some type of compensation model, image and likeness, Olympic model, the enforcement process, which has been laughably toothless for 2 decades. There's a handful of other areas that we need to see changes on, or the game is going to continue to. Now it's hard to say the game's irrelevant on the Tuesday after a great NCAA tournament, right? But let's come back to November. We don't know who any of the players are, et cetera, et cetera. Oh, the one and done's going to change too. I don't know when, but there's a confidence at the NBA level and NBAPA level that the one and done does end up changing. It may take a few years, but those are the primary things that we're going to see.
Pete Thamel, senior writer, Yahoo Sports in San Antonio after the national championship game. I would imagine once the NBA also gets involved and they want more relationships with amateur players at some level, they want to do away with the one and done more than likely sooner rather than later. It means that college basketball will have to be motivated to change, will have to be forced to evolve and change, right? I mean, if the NBA is going to get involved, college basketball has to be reactive to that, correct?
Yes, and I do think there'll be some more collaboration between the NBA, USA Basketball, and college basketball on the recruiting front. But these are problems that have evolved to where they are over decades. And you can have a lot of really smart people in the room. I'm just skeptical they can find the solution and implement it in a timely manner to reverse a generation of trends.
Do college basketball power brokers and decision makers, are they worried right now?
I do. I think the people who have a stake in the game at a macro level are worried. Because we could wake up some morning, there could be 10 more coaches arrested. I mean, the FBI investigation is still looming. They know the sport's not in a healthy place. They know what the regular season ratings and relevance are. So, yes, I do think from the big picture, if they're not worried, Damon, they should be.
Pete Thamel, senior writer, Yahoo Sports. Check out his coverage from the Final Four, the national championship game last night. And as he just mentioned, a really interesting piece that obviously is about potential change in the NCAA, college basketball, Condoleezza Rice, commissions, federal investigations, etc. By following Pete on Twitter, at Pete Thamel. Also, read him at yahoosports.com. Check out the college basketball link there for all of the latest. Pete, thanks for getting up with us, buddy. Have a safe travel home.